everybody, I'm Tiffany.
I'm Sal.
And welcome to Off the Rack, the show where we talk about a book that came out each week. And actually this week we're doing one that's super, on time. Action Comics number 1000 came out today, so, go out and grab it. But hey, if you haven't grabbed it yet, and you don't want to be spoiled, we are going to get into pseudo-spoiler territory. We're not going to tell you exactly what happens, but things might slip out. So just as a heads up, you could add it to the watch later list or whatever you want to do. But otherwise, just soldier on. Here we go, because it's going to be great.
So let's just jump into talking about this book. And before we get into the contents, let's talk about just the outside, the exterior. What have we got? There's a million variants.
Yes.
Which one do we have?
We have one of the decade variants. This is the 1980s variant, drawn by Joshua Middleton. I love this variant.
Yeah.
It's funny because I know there were so many that I was just like, oh, I kind of want that, I kind of want this. And I hadn't really looked at all of them. And when I opened this one up, I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, I don't normally seek out variants. I just kind of go with whatever's available.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that this one was the one that was available. I mean, it was sent to you by DC Comics. Thank you, guys. But I'm so happy that they were, because I love the 80s version of Superman. It's kind of the one that I fell in love with when I first started reading comics.
Yeah.
It was kind of given to me, or I inherited it, because he was the Superman when I started reading. The John Byrne, Man of Steel era 80s version of Superman, that is. So the iconography, the visualizations on this cover are very familiar to me. I love the power suit, almost like DC action figure superpowers, Lex Luthor on the cover.
Yeah.
It's not overwhelming the cover. We've also got this great depiction of Lois and Jimmy.
Yeah.
And of course the power image of Superman there.
Certainly. What I really like, and you also have in the background there.
Oh crap! It's Brainiac and that skull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the Daily Planet there too.
Yeah.
Just these little hints. What I really truly like about this cover is not only it harkening back to the comic book days of the 80s, but also the cinematic days of the 80s. Because for me, this has that sort of feel of a Drew Struzan poster, which of course I don't think they did one for Superman, but I don't know that for certain.
I don't think that Drew Struzan did a Superman poster.
No, but this makes me think of the movies and Christopher Reeves and just something you'd see going into the theater.
No, this is actually a poster that I kind of wish they had made.
Right.
My favorite one is of course just the image of the silver S symbol, and it just says "You will believe a man can fly." But I kind of like the idea of showing off the cast and the villains.
Right.
I kind of really wish that this villain was in those movies. But it's a great distillation of the era and the just the overall look and the feeling. Yeah. Of course, the other favorite thing about this cover for me is the Bullet DC logo. Right.
This is such a quiet little thing that they put on there. They didn't have to go the extra mile to bring back the logos. I assume each of them will have a logo that befits the decade it comes from. And if so, man, kudos to DC. That is some serious, just
foresight.
Yeah, a foresight or just, commitment to this idea.
Yeah, that's actually the key word I would use to describe Action Comics 1000 in particular, is commitment.
Yes.
They committed to making something that's actually worth the price of admission.
Yes, because you'll notice it is an $8 book, but it is 80 pages.
Yeah.
And don't forget it's his 80th birthday.
That's right. Oh, a lot of...
Also, I noticed this itself reminds me of older books too.
Oh,
the price box here at the
completely.
top there.
No, I was like, wow, that's a little simple. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It was kind of simple back then.
Yeah.
I like a lot of this, particularly. I know we're talking about just the printing quality, but it is a very well printed book. But for me, the thing that tells me it's a book from the 80s or a book that harkens back to that is the binding.
Yeah, it's called a perfect binding.
Yes, it is perfect, in fact, because it reminds me of having those old one-shots or graphic novels.
Yeah.
They're very simple, done-in-one stories that DC used to put out. And I love the binding, and I love how put together it is. It makes it so that I can read it, I can throw it around, but I also want to keep it in
pristine
good shape.
Care, yeah.
And it also can hold up.
Yes. I know we mentioned commitment before, and when we say that, I don't mean just from the aesthetic of the cover, like you said, or the quality of the printing, but throughout. This book I thought was really well put together from beginning to end. The way that it flows, even though it is a series of little vignettes, essentially by completely different writers, by completely different artists, with these little pinups peppered in here and there.
Yeah.
But the way that they thought about how this should be put together, I just thought they did such a good job. Agreed.
Another thing that I really like about it that contributes to its timelessness and to the just the format itself, no ads.
No, it's true. The only ad's actually on the back, and it's for Krypton, which is, super relevant.
Exactly. But no, you're paying kind of to have a book that's unfettered.
Yeah.
By ads, which I really love. I
Right.
love when I can just enjoy a story from beginning to end, or a comic from beginning to end.
Yes.
Because there's many different stories in here.
There are, and they cover the gambit.
They do. There's a lot, like from the beginning up until what's happening in 1001.
Right, and like a lot of different sides and feelings about Superman.
Yeah, I noticed that they really kind of, if we can talk a little bit about the stories, or in particular the content between the pages, I've noticed that they really paid attention to the origins of Superman. They were really kind of focusing on his beginnings. I noticed there were a number of visual cues that look at like Superman between the 30s and the 40s. Definitely,
definitely that. And I felt like there was just a lot of, Superman's very associated with hope. Like just that 4 little word, just hope. And you see a lot of that in this.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that, and clearly it's just, you feel a lot of each of these writers' love for the character.
Right. Yeah, no one worked on this book under duress, you can tell.
Yeah, it wasn't like they asked somebody and they were just like, fine, I'll do one. No,
right.
Like, each of these is crafted really lovingly.
Mm-hmm. I can't even say that there were any real weak points in this comic.
No.
Even those moments that feel kind of dated, or feel kind of from their own time, or the time that they're referring, I still found some value and enjoyed it, which I thought, hey, that's a feat. That's hard to do.
Right. Well, they really did a good job selecting the creators and really capturing Superman throughout the decades.
Yeah. Superman is... It's tough. When I think about Superman, I think about the best Superman stories. I either think of a Superman deconstruction, or I think of Superman's origins, like just the classic tale that everybody knows about how he came to Earth from a doomed planet and a rocket ship. I could see that kind of being the focus that a lot of people would want to gravitate towards.
Right.
Instead, it's all about Superman and his character, and who he is, and what he represents, and the almost like day-to-day adventures of the character.
Yeah, I noticed this book really highlights Superman's connection to humanity.
Yeah, big time.
Which I really appreciated. It's so easy to have him pitted up against otherworldly beings and other gods and such like that.
We get a little bit of that in there.
Right, we certainly do. But some of my favorite stories have been Superman just believing in mankind and just being around humanity as a whole.
Oh, absolutely.
We get so much of that in this.
It's true. What's your favorite one out of here? If you
I
had to pick.
knew that question was coming, and I have been thinking about this since I read it, which has been days now, and I'm like, it's so difficult to pick, because seriously, from when I first read it, I was just like, that's gonna be my favorite, and then when I thought about it, I was like, no, this is my favorite, and then I was like, this is my favorite. From just okay, so from just the story and the overall feeling of the story, I don't know why, and we'll see if this remains over time. I really enjoyed Brad Meltzer's story quite a bit. Again, I don't know if it's just that connection to humanity, or just the idea of Superman being in an almost impossible situation.
Right.
But still being it doesn't matter, I have to try.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know if this is spoilers or not, but for me, the moment where we're getting it's all interior dialogue for Superman. The moment where he's talking about flying, and he talks about how fast he's flying, and that he reaches past supersonic to a speed he hasn't flown since Pa. Yeah. And that hit me so hard. I was just like, oh my god. I also enjoyed Tom King's story quite a bit.
Tom King's story might be one of my favorites. It's it's between him and the Tomasi story.
Yes.
The Tomasi story is a quintessential Superman tale, where it's just Superman kind of going through hyper time.
Yes.
A lot of references in there I love.
Yeah, visually that's my favorite story.
Easily. No, yeah. That's completely one of the best looking stories.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want it to get you off track.
But yeah, the Tom King story was really, really well executed.
Yeah.
It works to his sensibilities while also not feeling out of place. It felt hopeful while still being bleak, and it just it managed to work to everybody's strengths, both Tom King, the artist on the title, and also of course Superman.
Yeah, I
loved it.
I definitely agree. It was surprising.
Yeah, I was legitimately surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Right, it was truly surprising. I also there were some. Snyder's story was fine.
Fine.
I enjoyed it.
It was for me. It was forgettable.
I didn't find it forgettable because it was funny because it definitely it's one of those things where it's like it kind of exists in its own world in a
Yes.
sense. But like that quiet moment between he and Lex,
Oh, yeah.
where like Lex almost learns a little lesson.
Right, exactly.
And like I was like, that's so nice. And even just that final moment between the two of them where he's like, I was gonna kill you. And
He's like, I know. Yeah, no.
I read it as like, I know.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay, buddy.
Right, yeah.
Like,
that's who you are.
But because of Superman's like sort of faith in humanity, even if it is Lex Luthor, he's like, but you didn't. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters to me.
Exactly.
I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, it's the subtext between his story. I kind of really dug.
Yeah, it wasn't superficial. It was just kind of like, for me, there were so many great things. I was like, oh yeah, and also Snyder wrote a nice story.
Yeah, even in the beginning, Jurgen's story.
Yeah.
It was funny because it was so like, it was a fun opener because it's like, you know, there's all this crazy stuff happening and like Superman's worried about like a threat from beyond the stars and like they're having Superman Day and he doesn't want to be there for it. But like Lois is like, you have to be there, and she does the whole like, you know, thing.
Yeah, the reveal.
And like John's there and he's just like, she's been waiting to do that like, all
right.
day. Like, come on. And like just the reveal of what's actually going on behind the scenes. Like I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed like the kind of meta subtext to it where like Wonder Woman ends up saying something to the effect of like, you know, like without you we wouldn't be here. And it's like without Action Comics, the rest of us may not be here.
Exactly.
And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like that's so fun. I love it.
Yeah. I it was nice seeing Jurgens as Superman, and for a few pages.
Yeah.
In particular, just him, you know, doing Superman-y things.
Right.
And of course, the big splash of everybody was fun to see.
Exactly. The Jeff Johns, Richard Donner story was fun.
Yeah.
Very much in time period, which I thought was very cool.
Yes,
like,
I agree.
I really enjoyed that. Louise Simonson, I thought was cute and kitschy. Like that was just like a fun, like kind of like office side to it.
That's what I came to expect from her back when she was writing Man of Steel, and like it's almost like a lost page or a few pages from her run.
Because it's very much just like, how does Superman balance being Superman while also having deadlines at the Daily Planet?
No, I loved that.
And it covers that, and I really enjoyed it, because it's just very much like the out of the frying pan into the fire kind of thing. Like, it's just constantly...
And I'm sure that there's a parallel between, like, the writers and how, you know, she needs to meet the deadlines even while she needs to be a superhero in her own right. A lot of great stuff in here.
Yes. I know we're definitely going to talk about one writer in particular, but maybe before we do that, any art that really stood out to you?
Oh, the Jorge Jimenez splash.
That was probably one of my favorite pinups. Overall, though, I think one of my favorite pages in this that literally caused me pause. Like, I stopped everything I was doing when I got to it. This is going to be a spoiler, so just pause us, finish the book, and then come back. Yeah, and come back. Or just skip ahead a few seconds. Right. Was Patrick Gleason mimicking Frank Miller with like Superman.
That really stood out to you. I remember, for me, I'm like, oh hey, they pulled a moment from Dark Knight. That's cool.
But I thought it was so well done because it is very difficult to capture the essence of another artist at times. Like, I had assignments like that when I was in art school, and like I never quite got it right because there was always so much of me in there. Right. And there certainly is a lot of like Gleason in there, but he does such a good job of like, I'm right there. Yeah. I'm like, for a second, I'm not reading this book anymore. And then I'm like, right. Yeah. You know, I'm back there. And I just thought he did such a good job. And he also captures all these spectacular moments throughout Superman's history. Right. And he does so in ways that, like, each page kind of transitions with the decades and the moments. And I was like, this is really impressive. And what an incredible amount of work.
Oh, yeah. No, it shows the versatility and the dedication and just the overall... Just quality and talent.
Not only to like the like overall look of each of the pages and the decades, but the costuming. Oh yeah, and the feel of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a treat. Like that was such a visual treat for me. And like you said, Jorge Jimenez's like splash page.
Which is basically just a recreation of Frank Whiteley's cover of All-Star Superman.
Right. It was really phenomenal. Yeah. Coppell's work, of course.
I needed to mention Coppell as well.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Just great looking.
Like, very much takes you right back to like the Dust Bowl in a sense. Yeah. Like, the coloring on it was so perfect. So props to the colorist as well. Yeah. But like really, I thought really well paired with what Johns and Donner were going for. Absolutely. It's a quiet but powerful story, and his art has this like muted, quiet like sense to it. But like it is so polished and so well done. I just thought that was phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely. There's like one moment, and I think it is actually from Gleason's, which I know you and I both really connected enjoyed. Yeah. it's Superman stopping the train.
Yeah. In terms of which page I liked the most in story, it's that one.
It was, I agree. I do like that. I don't know what makes me like so attached to the other page, but I was just like, wow.
Yeah. No,
I don't know. That like just came out of left field for me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I liked seeing Superman stop the locomotive and how it was portrayed. It was just incredible.
Just so great.
So there's a lot of great stuff in here that you can sink your teeth into and absorb and go through and go over again and again, which is a testament to the work and the craftsmanship that went into the book. In addition to the timelessness, there's also a little bit of a tease for the future.
Yes.
The last story is by Bendis, or at least it's not a story. It's more like the first few pages of the next story.
Which again, this is like the commitment to the overall just thought that went into this. It would have been really easy to like put Bendis in the beginning or whatever. That like, hey, look, it's Bendis, it's hip, it's new, it's it's what you want to read. They put it at the end because you've gone through all the rest of it.
And now you're going to move on to the next chapter.
Like, you enjoyed Action 1000. And now, on to the future.
Right, we're going to 1001. It also indicates, like, we're not going to stop at 1000 and then reboot again.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I was impressed, definitely, by the fact that they had the wherewithal and the awareness of people's perception of Bendis and where his strengths are. And instead of having a, like, conversation at a table or around the water cooler or whatever, we get this knockdown, drag-out brawl going on where they're just like, hey, I know what you think of Bendis, but he can also do this.
Right, exactly. You can still expect all of the powerful action sequences that you would want to see in a Superman.
Right, but you still get the conversation.
Yep, and he folds it in rather expertly. It's almost like the guy's got some experience doing this kind of thing.
I really appreciated the running commentary by the waitress and the woman and the manager of the restaurant about the changes to Superman.
Yeah, that was fun.
Just like a little like, hi, if you're not paying attention, you should be.
Right.
Right? And just like the overall, like, they're very realistic, I feel like characters or like, individuals in this world where it's just like, this is Superman. Of course they're like talking about like what he looks like, how they like his eyes, you know what I mean? It's Superman.
Right, exactly. It goes in a way that I would want to read about, which I enjoyed. Yeah. What'd you think of the new villain?
He's fine. I don't know about his look, but that's not really Bendis' fault necessarily.
It could have been. It could have been like a collaboration. It could have been more artist, more writer. I don't know. I don't know how much effort or who's to blame for the look.
Right.
As we've talked, I think off camera, I said he's a little overdeveloped.
He definitely is. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of look.
Yeah, and it's very specific. He doesn't feel timeless. He feels like a flavor of the month kind of character.
Right, which could be. Like, I've
heard that he's supposed to be like a big thing.
Oh, I was going to say, because I wouldn't mind, and I would kind of respect the idea that he just like creates this like ridiculous hulking looking thing. It's like, it's fine.
Right.
We're going to deal with other stuff.
We're going to do Shades of Doomsday and then throw him right out the window.
Right.
That'd be nice, because his hook, if you will, the oh no moment, I could not care less about. I don't like when they go back and like we just did a thing about Superman's history and everything that makes him who he is.
Yeah.
And then we go, oh, but we're gonna blow the doors off of this with a big revelation about Superman's past, and I'm like, no.
I know what you mean. What I did appreciate though, and what gives me hope is that like he included Supergirl in this. Like you're dealing with like the annihilation of Kryptonians here. She's there.
Right, and I've heard that he wants to fold her into the book.
Right.
Like, to make her a more essential character.
That would make sense, especially in this storyline. I don't know going forward how much that would
I'm down.
work.
I love the idea of Supergirl being a supporting cast member in Superman. I think it's a great idea.
I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
Like I said, like, I don't know if, like, maybe, because I know Jim Lee's going to take over for a bit, but it's only going to be for a bit.
Yeah,
and then there's going to be another artist, and I'm wondering if another artist version of him might sway me here or there.
We'll see.
Lee has a very specific way of drawing. I usually very much like it, and I did like a lot of it.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know if it was, there was so much detail.
Yes.
And I was like, it was kind of off-putting.
Yeah, that's true. I liked everything, pretty much everything about the story in terms of art. I loved... There's one moment where Superman almost hits the glass window, and I feel like it looks weird. It looks almost like Superman was drawn separately, and then they added him in later. I don't care for it.
I mean, you know what it is? Like, there's an effect that's done on the glass, and I think it's something we haven't really seen before, so it's kind of jarring.
Right.
So I think that kind of like, you're so, I know I was so focused on that effect that like the panel overall didn't like come together.
For me, you know what it is? I think it's because everything else has a lot of shadow and that one image of him doesn't. So it looks like it was an afterthought. It just, it's not because it's a key moment in the panel, but like I just, for whatever reason, I went, wow, like I don't know why it didn't mesh well with the rest of the page.
Right.
But, you know, it's fine. It certainly wasn't timeless and it certainly wasn't, you know, it felt like the least best thing about this story.
Well, and I mean, here's the difference, though. Like,
everybody else has like just giving it their all and they're throwing everything they can at it.
They get to write something that doesn't go anywhere else.
Right, it's timeless.
That.
And then and Bendis is like, I'm setting up the next part of the story.
Exactly. So you have to take Bendis' story with a grain of salt because it isn't like the here, write your 3 best Superman story or pages ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of what everybody else had the opportunity to do.
Yeah, like, Bendis is setting things up.
Yeah.
And it's also his first Superman, so we've never seen that before.
Right. So
there's a lot to go on. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that, you know, it was great to put it at the end, but it also might have been to its detriment because of all the good stuff that came before it. It is going to pale in comparison.
It will, but it also, like, again, like, you're going to be able to just go back and be like, okay, right, I read that, moving on.
Yeah, like, and can you imagine, you know, 5 years from now when you're reading this again and you're going back and you can then look back and be like, oh yeah like Bendis' first story, like it got really good, or like it did not work, you know, who knows?
Whichever way it goes.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
I agree. There's only one story we actually didn't touch on, and since we touched on every other one, we might as well talk about it quickly. It was just Paul Dini's.
Yeah.
Which was very cute. It made me immediately think of the animated series. Simply because of the characters chosen. Because I was like, I remember you from the cartoon.
Yes, and very much we're seeing those versions of the characters.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a really great little way for Dini to fold in a part of himself and his influence on Superman, pop culturally speaking, while also telling something new. And illustrating, you know, the timelessness and the grandiose nature of Superman.
Right.
He's like, I'm telling my definitive Superman.
Well, he's also, like, telling a little history lesson of the character. Yeah. It's really, like, it's smart. Like, in a couple of panels, like, you literally get, like, the origins, like, what he does, like, day to day, like, working with the Justice League, his, like, rogues gallery.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, I think the last panel in the book, I was like, or in that story, I went, okay.
Yeah, it's cute.
That was fun.
It's adorable. That. No, like, you know, not necessarily a surprise here. It deals with Mixie.
Yes.
Like, of course. Why not?
Right?
It's fun.
He is one
he
of
has
the
to be in here.
Major rogues that you don't get to see too often that is important. And, you know, even though he's, like, so far removed from everybody else. In Superman's rogues, I mean. It's great. No, I loved it. It was, overall, it's a 10 out of 10. Like, it's a knock. Like, they knocked this book out of the park.
They really did. They really set the bar high for, I guess, next year.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be. I think they'll just diminish the fanfare. Maybe in the next 10 years.
I meant for Detective.
Oh yeah. Well. Yeah. Action Comics number 1000 is in stores right now. If you haven't already picked it up, I definitely recommend it.
You really have to go out there and get it. And hey, in the comments down below, let us know what your favorite story was, what your favorite art was, or even what variant you got, if you got one of them.
So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you guys next time with an all-new episode of Off the Rack. I am Sal.
And I'm Tiffany.
Happy birthday, Superman, and congratulations to DC.
Yeah, Action 1000.
Wow.
I never thought it ever happened.
No, well, I mean,
never really numbers happen that way, but
like, you know,
reboots happen, people change the numbering
the
all
reboots
the time.
happen inevitably, so yeah.